Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
On the show with us today, Brandon Pankey, who is the Vice President of Business Development and Operations at Live Nation Urban. Brandon Pankey proves integral to the planning, positioning, and execution of marquee annual events and initiatives, ensuring the ultimate audience experience along the way. These include the Roots Picnic, where he serves as an official producer and offers his local expertise firsthand, Broccoli City, Strength of a Woman Festival, ONEMusicfest, Lil Weezyana, and more. He was also recently named to Ebony's prestigious Power 100, Variety's Hollywood New Leaders, and Billboard's Hip Hop Power Player list. Apart from his role at Live Nation, Brandon has started Apex, which is Artist Present Experiences, an advertising video on-demand streaming service focused on original and licensed scripted and unscripted content curated for and by music artists. He also maintains a connection to academia in his hometown of Philadelphia, as he previously served as an adjunct professor at Drexel University and guest lectured at various universities, including Harvard, NYU, Berkeley, and UNC. So my first question to you, after I say welcome to the show, Brandon, is where do you have time for all this?
Well, Bob, firstly, thank you for having me on the business side of music. You know, I actually listened to a couple of the broadcasts. I appreciate what you're doing for our industry. So thank you for that. Firstly, where do I find the time for it? You know, I'm blessed that I've been able to work with incredible people across different sectors. And so, you know, with music, you know, a great mentor and leader at Live Nation Urban with Sean G, and, you know, being able to work, you know, in tandem with him to help, you know, create a lot of these amazing festivals. I have great partners and great people working with me on the Apex side, which we'll get into a little bit later, in developing content. On the education side, I've partnered with two individuals, two music managers, Michael MacArthur and Jerome Hips, and we actually developed a music business program, the DASH program in Philadelphia, which we teach high school students about the business of entertainment. We're in multiple high schools in the school district of Philadelphia. So the one thing that I always sort of reiterate to young people, this business is about two things, really. It's about relationships, and it's about how you work with people in partnerships. If you can have fantastic relationships and really authentic relationships where it's not just, oh, I want something from this person, so let me try to be nice to them, or let me be their friend, or, you know, really be yourself, be authentic. And I've built incredible relationships over the past, I don't know, at this point, 16, 17 years, and develop great partnerships. So how do I find the time? By working with great people and realizing I can't do everything on my own, or at least I can't do everything on my own at a high level.
You've brought up two very pertinent points that I want to talk about here in a little bit, and that's relationships and also working with the high school students, which I think is so severely overlooked and underappreciated. But I want to back up even further. How did you get started in the music industry? That's a question I always like to ask my guests on the show. Each one seems to have a little different answer.
Yep. For me, I knew I wanted to be in music and in entertainment in general, probably since I was 9 or 10 years old.
Wow.
If I was a little bit taller and maybe a little bit more handsome, I might have been an actor. But I knew that music and entertainment, I just always had an affinity for it. I would get the Source subscription, Vibe subscriptions, and I would read the magazines, but I wasn't reading for the artist or artist reviews. I was reading about, Russell Simmons. I was reading about Sean Combs. I was reading about Jay-Z. And I'm like, oh, these guys have, they're considered moguls because they own record labels and clothing lines and restaurants. I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to have multiple businesses that are all sort of centered around music. Music is sort of the roots of it all. And you can branch out into all of these different sectors. I was like, that's what I want to do. And so, I threw parties in high school. And then once I got to college, I interned for MTV. And, again, one of the lessons that I always try to tell young people is MTV was not what I really wanted to do. I wanted to intern at a record label, but every piece of knowledge, every relationship that you gain isn't necessarily in the sector of the industry that you really wanted to be in. I was in satellite radio at the time, which was just burgeoning, and I learned Pro Tools, and it had nothing to do with where I am today, but it was just another tool in the proverbial toolkit. From there, I actually received, one of my mentors, her name is Deanna Williams. She actually was one of the founders of Black Music Month in June. She introduced me to two music managers, Jerome Hiss and Michael McArthur, in college. And I received my first internship, and I received it after graduating. And Bob, just so you know, I went to the University of Pennsylvania. And so Ivy League institution, I can say that my parents and individuals around me, maybe you should be a doctor or be a lawyer and do the things that you paid all of this tuition for. And I said, I really want to be in this music industry. Like, I really have a passion for it. And I remember the arguments. I remember, people, it came out of love from individuals around me, but I know they did not want me to go into this field. But, again, and I feel like I want to make this podcast specifically for young people who want to be in this. You have to put your passion before anything else, because if you are passionate about something, the profits and everything else that you want to get out of a career, you're going to get those things. And I knew I was passionate about this industry. And so I worked at this management company, and we actually developed this DASH program that I spoke of early on. I was about 22. We had received funding from the Gates Foundation. We were going to start a small high school in Philadelphia. And at the time, they put a freeze on charter schools. And so at that point, this was a year in after graduating, I needed money. And their business manager at the time needed an assistant. And so I was able to work in finance. Again, no interest in working in finance, but finance is the center of any industry that you are in. And worked at that business management company. At the time, the clients were The Roots, Jill Scott, Kanye West, Marsha Ambrosius, and a few others. And I really gained a lot of knowledge. I would stay till midnight sometimes and just read music publishing contracts and sponsorship agreements just so I can understand different sectors of the industry. And we started making a shift toward specifically managing tours for artists. And on that side, it's, managing the budgets, it's booking your tour manager, who's that staff, your, production manager, and making sure that an artist can come home with some profit. And we started working with Lil Wayne, took Lil Wayne and really helped to develop him as a real arena touring level artist. At the time, 2008, 2009, he had the I Am Music Tour, which sold out everywhere and really solidified him as a superstar in the live space, which is different than being a star, now in streaming. You notice today, a lot of artists have great streaming numbers, but don't necessarily have great touring careers. So two different ways of looking at it. And that he had just signed two young artists at the time, Nicki Minaj, and Aubrey Graham, Drake. And so we helped to develop their touring careers as well at a young, I was working with Drake when he was in 200, 300, capacity clubs and bars. Really gained a lot of my knowledge doing that. In 2014, that company rolled up with the management company for Young Money and for Kanye at the time. And we were purchased by Maverick under Live Nation. And then we were the sort of urban division under Maverick, which had 9 different artist managers, and at the time was the world's largest artist management company in the world. I was director of business development and touring for our part of Maverick, working with some of those same artists, T.I., G-Eazy, and a few others. And then in 2017, one of the partners of Maverick, Sean G., who I started out as his assistant, he formed Live Nation Urban underneath Live Nation, and brought me over as in my current role of Vice President of Business Development and Operations. And so when I say I've been really blessed and fortunate, in my career, I've gotten to work in business management, in touring, in artist management, and now on the promoter side. So a lot of different variances of knowledge, an amalgamation of all that knowledge, and here I am.
When we talk about working with high school kids, this is where I date myself, I age myself, in that we didn't have those opportunities back then. Now, we had theater class, we had orchestra and band and dance, we had all those different fine arts that as a high school student you could enroll into, but we knew absolutely very little, if nothing, of the production aspect of the music business, the entertainment business. When you work with high school students today, do you feel that you have all of the tools in place to be able to provide them the necessary information, knowledge to be able to go out there and make a statement, be able to plant a flag for themselves in the music business once they get out of high school?
So I would never be that cocky to say I have all the tools, because this industry changes every day. And I feel like we're in the wild, wild west of it. But I think I have enough tools where not necessarily music per se. We're using the music industry as a hook, because these kids love it, know it, breathe it, but more so life skills. For example, one of our exercises, a very simple exercise. It's, we'll ask, students to pair off into two groups and say, look, pick your favorite artist. How would you tell people your favorite artist was coming to perform at a concert? And they will come in with all these great ideas, and we put their name on a blimp, and we'll put them on the radio, some of the traditional ideas. And I would sit there and listen to them, and I say, well, guess what? There are people that get paid high 5 figures, 6 figures to do what you just did, sit around in a think tank and come up with marketing ideas for an artist. That's marketing. You can take marketing and you can apply that in music. You can apply that in healthcare. You can apply that in other industries. And for me, it's using music to let them know that they are intelligent, that they are great, that they can apply some of these same skills into multiple industries. And if you love music, hopefully you can continue it. And I have opportunities for shadowing, myself and others in the music industry. And we take them on trips to record labels and publishing companies if they want to continue that path. But if they just want to learn, like, it's life skills, learning marketing, understanding math concepts and science concepts, beats per minute, that's all that is math and science, and helping simplify that for them so they get that. It's really super rewarding.
Do you find that the youth of today, the high school student and the college student for that matter, do you find that they have an interest in learning about what it takes behind the scenes of the music business? Obviously, we see shows like American Idol and The Voice and America's Got Talent and on and on and on. And everybody wants to be a star. Everybody wants that 15 minutes of fame. Or they want to be on TikTok. They want 1 million followers. Do you find there is as much interest, or maybe nearly as much interest, of those fresh young minds of wanting to work behind the scenes?
It's my job, and it's others who are in this field of going back and teaching young people. It's our jobs to put it into their minds, because I didn't know, even as someone that's always loved music, that, hey, on tour, you can be a lighting designer for an arena level artist and make $3,500, $4,000 a week, making sure the lights look great. You can be an audio engineer, literally a front of house audio engineer, just making sure that the sound is great for everyone listening to a show, and make $2,500, $3,000 a week. When you can provide numbers and these jobs to some of our students, that's when their eyes open. It's like, oh, it's not just trying to get on TikTok and make a cool dance and hopefully I get, 1 million followers or 1 million views. It's not about that. There are real tangible opportunities. There was a student who, incredible sketch artist. He was an incredible sketch artist. I said, you can apply that and be a graphic designer, and you could design album covers. You can design, advertisements. You could do a bunch of things. They just don't know the opportunities. And so that's where I think my knowledge base comes in, so they can help to understand them and just expand their minds a bit on the possibilities for their own lives.
On the show with us today, Brandon Pankey, who is the Vice President of Business Development and Operations at Live Nation Urban.
Hi, I'm Rachel Bronstein with Life's Jam. Check out my episode on the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
As a musician, you have a dream, that vision of what success looks like for you. Though it's not only about the money, money is part of it. Whether you've been extremely successful or you're just striving to maintain a regular cash flow, you need a plan. Money Concepts can help you develop a customized plan to achieve the financial stability and success you want. For over 40 years, Money Concepts has been providing holistic financial planning services to individuals, families, and business owners. As an independent firm, Money Concepts and their associates are committed to always represent the best interest of the client. It's really about a committed, benevolent interest in them personally. This independence, coupled with that committed, benevolent interest, means they represent you, the client, not a product supplier. It's not about selling products, it's about helping you achieve success. To learn how this can benefit you, contact my buddy, John Adams, with Money Concepts at 737-867-9309. That's 737-867-9309. You can also email John at jadams@moneyconcepts.com.
Hey everyone, this is Jack Sharkey, host of the Between the Notes podcast. Join me and my co-host Bob Bender each week as we explore the magic and the beauty of all things music. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back on the show, joining us today on the business side of music, Brandon Pankey, who is the Vice President of Business Development and Operations at Live Nation Urban. In the very beginning of the show, you mentioned something that is really the other key component. I mentioned there were two, one of them working with the fresh young minds, the high school students and such. The other one is relationships, and that has always been a point of interest for me. I've always wanted to put a spotlight on the relationships because it seems that people don't want to build those relationships these days. They just want to come in and get what they want and then get out. It's, I was told years ago, don't ask what someone can do for you, ask what you can do for them. Do you find that as being, maybe trigger is not the right word, but maybe a stumbling block or an obstacle, a barricade to get over when you have this conversation with these people, with these kids, that it's all about the relationships? Do they understand what a relationship is?
A lot of them don't, quite honestly. And a lot of what I found, one, I just think, and this is my own opinion, we've gotten just more selfish as a society. It's about what we want, how do we attain, how do we get here, and not necessarily thinking about others, which, that's a whole different podcast, a whole different conversation. With young people, because they see that things are easily, or quote unquote, easily attainable. So I can go on YouTube, I make one thing viral, all of a sudden I'm popular. Or I can do, if I get one viral thing or just one thing that hits, all of a sudden, I'm followed by 1 million people, I'm more popular, I'm more successful. Everyone sort of, not everyone, I feel like a lot of people are steering away, a lot of younger people are steering away from the work that it takes, the hours that it takes to get to real success, to sustain success. And those hours include doing things for other people. Those hours include actually cultivating relationships. I've seen people quit because they've said, oh, that's not in my job description, so I'm not doing that, like that. And it blows my mind because I'm like, well, this is, I feel like this is what some of the greats had to do to get to where they're at. From a relationship perspective, it's just bad. It's just bad. It's just, how do I don't know how to say it. It's just, how do I cultivate a real relationship with somebody if I'm not willing to give my all to let them know that I can work hard, that I can be a successor potentially. That's the way I think about things. Is there's not always going to be a vice president in this specific role. There's not always going to be a director or whoever. How can I look, be seen as somebody that you can trust? Because relationships, great relationships breed trust. How can I be seen as someone that you can trust to take that role and to grow and to thrive as an individual, just as a human being? How can I grow if I'm not taking care of relationships with people? And that's across everything. I don't even want to just talk about the business side of music. I'm talking about the personal relationships in your life. I'm talking about every relationship, because I've seen someone, if you can disregard a relationship in business, I've seen you disregard a personal relationship. And that's problematic for me when it comes to certain individuals.
The amount of time that it takes to cultivate relationships, and I use my personal experience, some good, some not so good, some bad. You try not to burn bridges. Sometimes it happens no matter what. But knowing people in the business and building those relationships, at least I find it, is not as difficult as it seems. It's just a matter of introducing yourself, asking questions, hey, what is it you do? I'd love to know more about you. It's kind of like, as you say, personal relationships. It's almost like going on a date, that first date over coffee or a drink or whatever. It's getting to know those people. Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. Bob, so many people come up to executive level individuals, C-suite level individuals, and they always want something. And I know for a fact that it's draining. It's just, okay, here they come. They're going to ask me for a job or ask me for help. And, people are willing to help. But, sometimes, people don't ask if you're from, and I'll just make a random example, but I'm from Philadelphia. It's refreshing when someone says, well, you know what? The Eagles are in the playoffs. What do you think what do you think is going to happen? Whether you actually really, really care or not, but it at least is different. It's a different approach than I get from a lot of other people asking me for tickets for the Roots picnic. It's refreshing when people just want to get to know me. And that, to me, starts that foundation, at least, to build a relationship. Me and that person may never work together, but I always remember that person because they got to know me as a person versus me as the person who can help them, get an internship or help them get a ticket. I'll probably help you more get an internship if we're just having real conversations. I just think being authentic is more important than, again, passion comes before profits. When we start thinking about profits, that's when we stop worrying about the people around us.
I use Nashville as an example because obviously that's where we're based out of. And of course, we're the capital of country music. I remember the story of Garth Brooks. Everybody knows who Garth Brooks is. Multi-platinum seller, still after all these years, sells out arenas and stadiums, has no problem doing that. When he got started in the business, he would go up to people and he had that innate ability to be able to remember names. He had a retention that was unlike so many others. He would ask someone their name and he would go up to them 6 weeks later, 6 months later, 6 years later, and go, hey, aren't you so-and-so and you're with such and such? And that was one of the reasons that people absolutely fell in love with Garth Brooks after, his music is good, but it wasn't necessarily so different than everybody else, but it was his business sense of getting to know people. And it's all about those relationships and knowing what to do with it. I love what you said about, hey, how are the Eagles? Are they going to make the playoffs this year? It's that little bit of information that you can grasp onto, that you can garner, that you can use down the road. And that's part of that relationship development, right?
Absolutely. But Bob, I'm going to even go even more simple than that. Say thank you. There are a lot of people that don't even say thank you when you do things for them. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. And I don't care where you're at in your career, whether you're a CEO or whether you're an assistant. The other piece of that actually is treat everyone the same, treat everyone kind. Assistants are the gatekeepers to the people that you want to get connected to. When you don't treat them right, you will not have the meeting or not have the conversation that you really would like to have. Relationship building, for me, I think you stated it as well. It's how do you court someone? I think you said it's similar to going on a date. How am I going to court this individual? You don't court the person saying, hey, I want something from you all the time. That's how you get arrested, actually. I want something from you. You don't court the person. You court them by figuring out their interests, figuring out what they like, giving them what they like or what they would want, and doing it in an authentic way if you really want to court them, if you really want to be at this job or be in this position. And I think that is a simple art that has been lost. And I think it's part of it is, again, this instant sort of microwave success that you may see from individuals on social media and things. And that's just not how it is, for 99% of us. And I wish people would get back to just being kind individuals. Just being kind is half the battle sometimes in getting further in your career.
I love what you said about it's that microwave generation, instant gratification. Is this something that is teachable in your experiences? And I shouldn't say, is it teachable, because everything is teachable, but do they absorb it? Do they learn it? And do they understand it?
They do. I think part of, the catch-22 of the internet is because all information is accessible at the click of a button, because I can type in a question of what does music publishing mean? I assume I know everything because I'm just reading about it without actually having any experience in it. And I think having, a Bob Bender or having a Brandon Pankey speak to you, there's a level of, I've done this. I know what I'm talking about. I've seen it across different decades where I can show you the growth and how things have changed. That's the key to, I think, unlocking or sort of changing the dynamic of how younger people are thinking. And so once they actually hear it and they start to understand why it's important to have a mentor, why it's important to network, why it's not just important to I want to have a record label. What do I need to do? Got it. I know everything now. Once you get them out of that mindset, I found that they are absolutely more open to understanding and just being more receptive.
On the show with us today on the business side of music, Brandon Pankey, who is the Vice President of Business Development and Operations at Live Nation Urban.
Hi, this is Amira Alvarez, founder and CEO of The Unstoppable Woman. Thanks for tuning in to the business side of music with host Bob Bender and its plethora of industry experts. Folks like me.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Whether you consider yourself a musician or not, music is all around us, and it affects our everyday lives, whether it's background music influencing our shopping habits in a store, organ music adding the vibe to a baseball game, or a playlist convincing us to keep going on that last mile of a run. I'm Mindy Peterson, host of the podcast Enhance Life with Music, where we take a holistic look at music's benefits through the lens of science and medicine, entertainment, and business. You can find me and Enhance Life with Music at mpetersonmusic.com/podcast or wherever you get your audio.
You're listening to the business side of music.
When we talk about Live Nation as a whole, it's obviously the big dog. It is really the 800-pound gorilla in the room. What do you find working for Live Nation that for you itself is beneficial, and where are things going? What path are you heading down now?
The path for me, I think Live Nation, and this is a great accolades to what Michael Rapino has built and what he continues to build with Live Nation, and with Sean G as well. I've been blessed to work with entrepreneurs, and that's given me just a lot of support in how I want to move forward. And so Live Nation has given me a great foundation to start, Apex, which is Artist Presented Experiences, which is it's a streaming service. It's an AVOD, advertising video on demand network for artists. Artists have so many ideas and they're all brands now, and they have content ideas. If you're not Drake or Lady Gaga or U2, you're probably not going to get a Netflix or a Hulu deal. And that's where I think this streaming service will be really valuable and really giving artists and, their opportunity to create their unfiltered vision, to do what they would like, whether it's scripted, whether it's unscripted. Doesn't even have to have music involved. I just want quality content that happens to feature artists because I've been around them my whole career and I know how smart and creative they are. Me taking that path forward to start Apex, to build Apex into what I believe it can be, would not even have occurred if I was not underneath the Live Nation umbrella. And so, yes, Live Nation is the global leader, the big elephant in the room when it comes to these great live shows. But underneath the hood, I really do believe this company, if you can, access it right, have built great relationships, as we've been speaking about, Bob, it gives you the opportunity to be an entrepreneur and to go off into whatever sort of venture you would like to go into.
I want to dig a little further into Apex, which sounds very intriguing to me. You've explained a little bit of how it works, but let's dig a little deeper into that. It's a streaming service, streaming platform. How does that work? Where does one see it? How do you submit material for it? All that good stuff.
For sure. So we're in the App Store right now for approval. The goal is to launch officially in the next 30 days. I've built some great partnerships. Radio, which is Issa Rae's record label, they have a great artist interview series. Stacey Muhammad, who has directed a ton of shows from Queen Sugar to The Best Man on Peacock to a host of others. She has an artist interview series on there. I have a scripted series from Sean Famoso, who is one of the managers for LVRN, which is the management company or the record label, behind Summer Walker. I have partnered with Mercury Studios, where they've provided, they're an arm of Universal Music Group. They provided 30 documentaries ranging from, Snoop Dogg to Duran Duran to Queen to Miles Davis. That'll be on the platform. I have some other shows that I can't even talk about that we're developing for the platform. So it's going to be everything. It's a mix of everything. It's original scripted series. It's like, we have a partnership with Complex where we're licensing some content from Complex. I am so enthralled with this because I think there's a great opportunity to really, provide a great space and a really great platform for artists to, put whatever they want on there. I mean, not necessarily whatever they want, but really put some really cool content. In 3 to 5 years, I would love to look up, Bob, and you see, a sci-fi series from Dua Lipa. You see a horror series from, Little Baby. Like, you have all of these great show concepts that artists have either created or they're starring in. And so, I'm accepting submissions. It's been wild. Individuals that I have no clue who they are, but they're just young creators, have reached out to me on LinkedIn. Somehow found my email, which I need to check on that, with some back-end firewall security. I'm getting submissions from everybody. I'm super excited about this, and I'm super excited to see where it grows.
Is this something that the independent content creator, can get involved with? It doesn't necessarily need to be someone who's represented by a major label. This can be that indie artist.
It can absolutely be an indie artist. I actually have an indie artist that's, he has like a mini documentary that he wants to develop for the platform. This is for everybody. I don't want to relegate it to major labels because that takes away, again, part of the mission is to, give all artists, all genres, the opportunity to give their unfiltered vision for the network. If I only focused on major labels, then I'm lying about my mission. This is for everybody. And I really respect what independent artists do, independent producers, songwriters, whomever, because quite honestly, they're the lifeline of this industry. You can't sign to a major unless you're really bubbling and doing great things on the independent scene, for the most part. It goes beyond analytics for me. It's about great people. And so this is for everybody, Bob.
Without giving away that email address that seems to be floating out there, how does someone get a hold of you? How do they submit a body of work that they think you might be interested in?
Oh, yeah. The email would be info@watchapex.com. You can go there and you can submit. It's either myself or one other individual. We look at that every day. We are small but mighty right now, a startup that I think, Bob, I would love to come back a year from now, have another conversation, and we're focused specifically on Apex and building that out. I'm really, really excited about where I think Apex can go. And you can go to watchapex.com as well to sign up for the app and get more information about it as well.
I would love to have you back on in a year and talk some more about Apex and see where it's at. I think that would be a great success story.
I agree. Personally speaking. Absolutely. Thank you.
Brandon, thank you so much for being on the show.
No, it was such an honor, Bob, and thank you for having me. Please, I'm serious, have me back at another point. We have a lot more to talk about.
We definitely will.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dogs Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound designed by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.